Morning, everybody, and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. I hope everyone is doing well on this Saturday morning. We've got so much to get into on the show today, but before we do that, please do me a small favour. Make sure to drop a like on today's episode, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and in the comment section, I want you to let me know your thoughts on the summer transfer window. Who should Manchester United sign? Let me know. Get in the comments. Give me your thoughts. Right. We're going to start off by talking about Hugo Ekitike, a player we've spoken about quite a bit on the channel, but there is a big story that broke late last night, just as we were going to bed, that apparently Manchester United, this is coming out from Florian Plettenberg, and it was also coming out from, let me just get the story back up. I think it was Sport Build. Let me just double check that I'm not barking up the wrong tree. It is from, Plettigol and Sky Sports, Germany. And they're reporting that Eintracht Frankfurt are now aware of Manchester United's serious interest in signing Hugo Ekitike as new striker this summer. He says that Arsenal, Liverpool and Juventus have all apparently inquired about Hugo Ekitike. It says that Eintracht Frankfurt firmly expect him to leave this summer. They are demanding £67 million. Wow. That is a crazy, crazy amount of money for Hugo Ekitike. A talented player, don't get me wrong, but I'm not convinced he's worth £67 million. He's got 13 goals this season in 25 games, which is good in the Bundesliga. 3 goals in the Europa League and 3 assists in the Europa League. Across all competitions, he's on 27 goals and assists in 38 matches. I mean, that sounds fantastic. It really does. But we have to remember that a fair chunk of these goals has come in the Bundesliga, which isn't the Premier League. It's not, it's not the worst league in the world, but it's not quite the same. I don't think he's been capped by France yet, unless I'm mistaken. I think he's a quality player. Now, I think the reason why they're asking for such a big fee is because he's got 4 years left on his contract. So they don't really need to sell unless they get the right figure. It's not like he has 6 months left on his deal and it's either take 20 million or you get nothing. It's a case of 4 years left on his current contract. Eintracht Frankfurt hold all the cards. I think somewhere around 50 million would probably be more fair, which is still a lot of money, obviously. £50 million is crazy, crazy money. But I just think 67 million pounds? That's what, 80 million euros? Too much. Far too much. He is a good player, though, and I think he could go somewhere and do well. Obviously, he nearly signed for Newcastle, didn't he? Do you remember a couple of years ago, Newcastle nearly signed him, but instead they signed Isak. So, we know how that all went. But, he's a talented player, somebody I'd definitely like to see. He fits the age profile, only 22 years of age. Manchester United are clearly very, very interested in him. The thing that I don't really understand, which I'd love to get your thoughts on, is why would Manchester United not be able to afford Gyökeres at 60 million, but they can afford Ekitike at 67 million? That's the bit I don't really get about this whole story. And hopefully there's somebody in the chat who can kind of help me understand how that makes any sense, because I just don't get that. We're briefed by the media that Manchester United can't afford, how much was it? 60 million for Gyökeres, somebody who's absolutely banging the goals in, right? But suddenly we can afford 67 million for Hugo Ekitike. It just doesn't really add up to me. Now, we have to remember that there is so much speculation going around. Transfer window is silly time where there's, every single day we're linked to another player. Every single day we're going to spend 100 million on someone you've never heard of. We always have to be aware and cautious of that. That is what happens in the transfer window. We all know that. We all know to take every single story with a pinch of salt. We all know that 99% of the stories we read won't happen. So we have to obviously understand that. But I just always find it funny when there's like these flaws in these types of stories where it's like, okay, Manchester United can't afford Gyökeres. Okay, fine. If that's the situation, so be it. Let's go and look for a younger profile, somebody who we can afford, and let's see what we can do. All right, fine. I'll accept that. It's upsetting. It's disappointing that we've got to where we are, that we're not allowed to sign these top players anymore because we don't have the money or the pool or no European football, whatever. I'm not happy about it, but fine. But then, to be told that we can't afford a player but then to be linked to another player, it just doesn't make sense. And that's why I say, like, transfer window is silly season. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Lots of people are saying we should sign Osimhen. I really like Osimhen. Really, really like Osimhen. I would love to see Osimhen. I always says that my priority was Gyökeres number 1, Osimhen number 2. I would probably go Hugo Ekitike number 3, Jonathan David number 4, and Liam Delap number 5. Those would be my kind of 5 in order. Gyökeres, Osimhen as the 2 kind of probably level playing field, top targets for me. World-class strikers, probably get you 20 goals minimum a season. Melchett says I'd be over the moon if we signed Ektike. Wow. And Melchett also says that apparently Arsenal are leading the race, but apparently he is a United fan. Dean says Gyökeres apparently doesn't want a United move as he wants Champions League football. We might get Champions League football though, still, remember. We're not out of it yet. You know, if we win the Europa League, we'll get Champions League football. So all hope isn't over yet in that regard. But let's move on from that. Obviously, let me know your thoughts on Hugo Ekitike. Let's talk a little bit about Osimhen really quickly. So the news on Osimhen this morning is that apparently Manchester United have been told that Victor Osimhen would be willing to join them without Champions League football, which is interesting. On the flip side of that, the reports this morning are suggesting that Victor Gyökeres' assessment of where Manchester United are at the moment is that it is not the option he wants to take this summer when he's turning 27. He wants to go to a club where he can prove himself and win trophies. I don't really understand that, realistically. That doesn't make sense to me at all. And you're going to be like, why? But hear me out here, right? Since Arteta has become the manager of Arsenal, he's been there for 6 years now. They've won 1 trophy. In the last 2 years, or the last 2 seasons before this one, we've won 2 trophies and got to another FA Cup final. We won the FA Cup, the League Cup, and we got to an FA Cup final. So in the last 2 years, Manchester United, trophy-wise, have been more successful than Arsenal have been in 6 years. So unless he's going to move to like a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich or a Manchester City or a Liverpool or some... I mean, even then, like... I don't know. I get generally the thought behind this, but there's this whole narrative, I think, in the wider football world that obviously Manchester United are rubbish, and I get all of that. But even when we're rubbish, we're still winning trophies and we're still a massive club. So, yeah, I do understand, but at the same time, I think, like, I don't know. It just kind of confuses me a little bit. You know, when players like, oh, I want to win trophies, and then they end up going to Arsenal, it's like, well, you're not going to win any trophies at Arsenal, probably. You know, they're not going to win the Champions League. They're out of the FA Cup. They're out of the League Cup, or the League Cup's finished. They're not going to win the Premier League. Like, they're not winning anything. So, yeah, I don't know. Fair play that he wants to go to a club that he sees as more of a guarantee. But I don't think there's any guarantees in football. You know, Manchester United, next season... You never know. We might do really well. It's possible. We have a great summer window, great pre-season, and we do really well next season. Like, that is a possibility. Football's so unpredictable, and that's why people love football. Manchester City are obviously going to be in the top 4. We can all predict that. Liverpool will probably be in the top 4. We can predict that. You know, but yeah. Andy says we have no money. How are we buying these players? Great question, Andy. Thank you very much for your comment. So, how are we going to buy players this summer? Rashford, 40 million, straight profit. Talk of Kobbie Mainoo leaving, 60, 70 million, straight profit. Talk of Alejandro Garnacho leaving, 50 million, straight profit. Then you've got players like Jadon Sancho going. You've got people like Christian Eriksen. You've got Johnny Evans. You've got Tom Heaton. All of these players' contracts are up. Okay? Big wages. Johnny Evans is on about 100 grand a week. Christian Eriksen's on about 150. Lindelof's on about 150. Just from the players whose contracts are up, we're set to receive around £1 million more in wages than we were before. That's 54 million a year extra in the pot. Then you've got people like Anthony. He's most likely going to be moved on. Obviously, Jadon Sancho is going to be moved on. There's talk of Greenwood leaving. Marseille. I think we have a 25% sell-on clause there. So we've done a little breakdown there of where the money can come from, you know. And obviously, if a player's come through the youth academy, then Malacia as well, Tony said. So this whole narrative that we don't have money, that is the Glazers winning you over. That's the Glazers propaganda tricking you. So don't accept this whole we don't have money. We do have money. We are the biggest, if not the second biggest club in the world. And this summer, these players will be leaving, right? Johnny Evans, 100% leaving, 100 grand a week off the books. Lindelof, 100% leaving, 150 grand off the books. Ericsson, 100% leaving, another 150 grand off the books. And Tom Heaton leaving, right? So there alone, you've got a massive amount of wages gone. And then to be like, we don't have money, how are we going to get money? That is letting the Glazers off. How are we going to get money is by letting Rashford go, Sancho go, Antony go, minimum. Casemiro go as well. He should be gone. Malacia, gone. That's 5 players alone, right? You look at those 5 players. 10 million for Malacia, 40 million for Rashford. I think it's 20 million for Sancho. That's already 75 million. 30 million for Antony. That's reasonable. That's 105 million. And then Casemiro, I'd say maybe 10 million. That's 115 million there. Plus all of the money that we generate as a football club anyway. So 110 million there. All of those wages saved as well. Casemiro's on 350k a week. Rashford's on 350k a week. Sancho's on 250k a week. Like all of the players I just listed, Antony, Rashford, Sancho, Casemiro, that's 100 to 150 million's worth of transfer fees there. Of wages a season gone. So that's where the money's going to come from. And remember that amortization works in the sense that, you know, if we sell a 100% player who's come through the academy, a homegrown player, it allows us to spend way more money. So unfortunately, that's what the reality is going to be. We might see Garnacho leaving, we might see Rashford probably leaving, and that will allow us to spend. So this whole thing of we don't have any money, what are we going to do? That's that's effectively the Glazers' propaganda winning you over, that we're just expected to sit here and say, oh yeah, we can't sell any of these players. Oh no. And we shouldn't allow that. So yeah, and obviously with the amortization, some of these players will be down as straight profit as well. You know, if we sell Dalot this summer, it'll be straight profit because we've already paid off his transfer. So if we sell him for 30 million, that'll be 30 million profit on our books in relation to amortization anyway. Obviously it won't be, you know, if you look at it black and white, how much we paid for the player versus how much we sell him for, it won't be. But in relation to amortization, the fee will be paid off. But so that's how we'll spend money. It's relatively simple. It's not really that complicated. So sell to buy is effectively the narrative. But even sell to buy, we should still be able to spend about 50 to 100 million net, I reckon. So even if we sold no players, I reckon we'd be able to spend about 50 million on players if we sold no one. So if you say the budget's 50 million for the summer, and then you sell Rashford, you sell Antony, you sell Sancho, you sell Casemiro, you sell all of these players, that budget could easily jump up to 100, 150 million. Because remember, the deals are spread over 5 years, aren't they? So yeah, that's how we'll sign players. It's quite simple. You just like, it's quite simple. And for people who are like, oh, we can't sign players, that's just effectively the Glazers convincing you that we should accept a bad transfer window. Obviously, we have to get these players off the books. It might not be that easy, but at the same time, you know, Omar Barada, all these people are paid hundreds of thousands of pounds every single year to be responsible for these types of things. Other clubs managed to do it. Arsenal did it when Arteta came in, didn't they? They completely cleaned the squad out. It is possible to do it. So we just can't accept to sit on our hands and say, oh, we can't do anything this window. Because if we do, we'll just fall further and further and further down till it gets to a point where we won't be able to return. So this summer's bigger than any other, I think, realistically, because it's a new manager. We have to rebuild, re-sculpture the squad. So, yeah. Somebody says, what's the bets the owners mess it up and Mainu or Garnacho get sold? I could see Garnacho leaving, to be fair. Mainu, I don't know. I mean, if someone offered us a massive amount of money for Mainu, I would probably sell him, realistically. If it meant that we could rebuild our squad. I don't mean like 20 million. I'm talking like 100 million, something like that, which is never going to happen. But whereas Garnacho, I don't know. It's hard to predict with Garnacho. If Napoli come back in for Garnacho again, maybe a deal was struck. But I think Man United were asking for about 50, 60 million for Garnacho, and no one wanted to pay it. So, yeah. Right, let's talk about the final story of the show then, and it's about Francisco Trincão, Sporting Lisbon player, one who obviously Ruben Amorim knows very, very well. I like this player a lot. The story is that apparently Manchester United are interested in signing him. He scored 2 goals off the bench the other day for Portugal. 25 years of age. Really, really talented player. I think he'd be absolutely perfect in this Ruben Amorim team. He can play as a right winger, a left winger, or as a striker. Had a pretty good season for Sporting Lisbon. He's got 24 goals and assists in 43 matches. So he's averaging a goal or an assist every other game, which is decent. Obviously, he's been around for quite a while, hasn't he? He was at Barcelona. Then he went to Wolves for a bit. Then he went back to Barcelona. Then he went to Sporting. Then he went back to Barcelona. Like he's a player who's been around. Been around for a fair old amount of time. And I think now he's only really starting to find his kind of feet in world football. You know, like there was one point, I think it was about 5 years ago, where he was like the next big player to break through, and then it just didn't really happen. And he ended up at Wolves, and then he ended up at Sporting, and now he's kind of finally starting to rise again. I think he'd be a good signing. Some of the fees that are getting floated around sound a little bit ridiculous. You know, people saying, oh, Man United are going to pay 100 million. I mean, that's just stupid. That's not going to happen. And the thing you have to remember as well with this guy is he only has 2 years left on his contract. So I think there is an option here. Manchester United apparently want to offer around 40 million euros, which is about 30 million pounds. But the only issue here is Barcelona have a clause that says that they'll get 50% of any future transfer, which makes it relatively difficult for Sporting Lisbon, because if they sell him for, say, 50 million, they only get 25, which makes it a little bit more complicated, doesn't it? They did only pay 7 million euros for him, though, Sporting Lisbon, and that was only last year. So, you know, if they got 20 million for him, that's still 3 times what they paid. So it's not awful. And it also says apparently that Barcelona have the option to buy him back for 20 to 25 million. So that is a possibility. But I do like the player. I think he'd be a good signing. So yeah, hopefully we can get something done, you know, because I think he would be a good player to bring into Manchester United. But of course, I'd be interested to see what you guys all think. Like, if we don't want to go for him, who should we go for? So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. But anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Nothing else really to talk about. Those are kind of the key. Oh, yeah, sorry, Aiden Heaven, actually. Let's talk about him quickly. So there was a picture that's floating around on social media of Aiden Heaven in a protective boot. And that's obviously sent people into an absolute meltdown. From what I've read and what I've heard, apparently he's walking on it. So it's just a precaution. Do you remember... Was it last season? There was a picture of Bruno Fernandes and he was wearing a protective boot and he was like led on his sofa. And then the next day he played a game of football. Like, it's just a precaution. So it's all good. Don't worry. Don't panic yourselves. Aiden Heaven apparently will be back in training after the international break. So that's good. But anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Please do make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Have a great day. Enjoy your Saturdays and I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.